Welcome to another exciting coding challenge number 5. In this challenge, we will dive deeper into the Python functions and loops to help you understand them better. So far we've learned a for loop, and today we will learn a while loop. We will finish it off with a fascinating challenge called spiral arts. But before we get into that, let's revisit a concept of loops. As we discussed in a previous challenge, loops are used for iteration and repetition. In the previous challenge, we've used for loop to draw multiple circles, and we also used a range function. But what if we want to draw multiple circles but we don't know the exact number? This is where the while loop comes in. While loop allows us to perform multiple tasks without knowing exact number. So you have to set a condition, and a while loop will use this condition to understand how many times you need to repeat a task. Here are some common scenarios when while loop are used. The first one is counting. We can use while loop to count how many times we want to perform a task, similar what we've done with a for loop and a range function. For example, we want to draw 5 circles, and we can do it either with a for loop or with a while loop. We will go to example a little bit later. Second example is condition. While loops with conditions are used to repeatedly execute block of code as long as specified condition remains true. For example, we can keep drawing our circles until we reach end of a screen. While loops also commonly used in a game development to create game loops. A game loop is a crucial part of any game, and it continuously updates some game logics, game state, player inputs. Now let's move to examples, and I'll demonstrate you how to use for and while loops. Remember the second example we've done in our previous coding challenge, where we used for loop and a range function to create 5 circles. We can recreate same example using a while loop and a counter. While sample number 1. First of all, I will use pen up and pen down to navigate a bit down. Minus 100. And I will introduce a counter variable. Counter equals 0. By default, it's 0. Then we create a while loop. We start with a keyword while. And we have to give condition. Our condition would be while counter is less than 5, we will repeat some action. Counter less than 5. But I have to put colon and enter code. Inside the while loop should be indented, means shifted. Here I can repeat the same code what I've done for my for loop. I draw a circle with a radius 20, and after that I move forward 20 pixels. Once the first iteration is completed, we have to increase our counter. I'm adding one more line to increase the counter. I can do it 2 ways. Counter equals counter plus 1. It's one way, or you can do a shorter way. Counter plus equals 1. In Python, it's absolutely same. You can say counter equals counter plus 1. You can do it counter plus equals 1. It also will increment it by 1. I'll leave my second option. This piece of code should perform exactly same as our for loop. Let's test it out. First let's execute our for loop, create 5 circles, and then it will go to our while loop and will do absolutely same. So now you can see you can perform the same task using for or while loop. You can decide on your own whatever is easier for you. I'll give you another example using a while loop. What if we want to draw as many circles as the end of our screen and we don't know the number? I don't know what number of circles I have to draw, but I know what I want to draw till end of the screen. I also can use a while loop with condition. Example number 2. So I'll go down using pen up, pen down, minus 250. And now I can create my while loop. While. And here we put a condition. And our condition should be our x coordinate is more or equals to 250. We stop drawing our circles. So we need to know our initial x coordinate. So our initial x coordinate, we set it to minus 200. And inside a while loop, we will increase our x coordinate, but now we have to set condition while x coordinate less or equals to 250. So we draw a circle, we go forward to 20 pixels, and now we have to change our x coordinate because we moved to the 20 pixels. Let's increase our x coordinate to 20 pixels as well, and the x would be x plus equals 20. We'll increase it to 20, so the next circle will be shifted to 20 pixels. Now let's run it. First it's a for loop executing, next is a while loop, and now we have our while loop, and it has to draw circles till end of our yellow screen. And that's it. It's finished running. As we understand the concept of for and while loops, we can move on to a more exciting task called spiral arts. Spiral arts is all about creative use of for and while loops in programming to generate captivating patterns. By manipulating position, size, color of objects, you will be able to draw your own art. In our first example, I'll demonstrate you how to create a basic spiral art using circle and rotation. We will start with drawing a circle, and going through the loop, we will rotate this circle on a particular angle and create an amazing spiral art. Now I will demonstrate you how to create amazing spiral arts using for or while loops. I already done a press setup with a black background color. We will start with a very simple spiral art using just circles and rotation. I'll demonstrate it with a for loop and with a while loop. Let's start with a for loop. Let me set the speed 0. I'll select the color for my circle. Color would be red. And I'll start with a for loop. For item in range. Let's say we repeat this pattern 20 times. Colon, next line. We will draw a circle with a radius 30, and we will rotate our circle right to 30 degrees. Now let's run it, and we can see an amazing spiral art. Let's do absolutely same with a while loop. I'll move a bit down, pen up, go to minus 100, minus 100, pen down. I select a blue color. For while loop, I don't know how many times I need to rotate, but I can set a condition while, and next should be my condition. I know what I want to rotate 30 degrees. I will introduce a variable angle equals 30. So basically a full circle is 360 degrees, and what we can say, while angle less or equal 360, we keep drawing our circle, and we draw a circle 30, and then we rotate right to 30, and we increase our angle, plus equals 30. Let's run it, and we can see absolutely same pattern. We used for loop or we used while loop. It was spiral 1. Here we've got spiral 2. In our second example, we will focus on changing the size of the object while we are drawing, and we also will be picking a color from a list of 2 colors. And let me give you another example using spiral art with a Python function. From our previous coding challenge, we knew how to create Python function, and I quickly create a Python function to draw a square, div, draw size. Then we create a for loop for item in range 4, because we repeat the same pattern 4 times. We draw line forward, and the line forward would be by size what we enter as a parameter, size. After that we rotate right 90 degrees, and that's it. That's our function to draw a square. After that, let me create another spiral art. I'll create it up here, going up, go to minus 100, 100, and down. It would be our spiral 3. I'll select the color, orange. I'll create a bit different spiral art. Every time I want to change a size of my square, so I'll use a for loop for this. For item in range, say 10 times. I will start with drawing a big square, and then I make it smaller, smaller, and smaller. But before I start drawing, I need to define a size. And let me define size. Initial size would be 100 pixels. Now I call my function to draw a square, draw square, and I add this size. After I draw my square, I want to reduce the size. So the next time we execute it, it should draw it a smaller size. Size minus equals, let's reduce it by 10 pixels. And let's check it out. Can you see, every time it was reducing the size of my square until it completed it 10 times. Now we want to improve our spiral art to give it different color. Let's say I want orange, gray, orange, gray, orange, gray. In order to implement this, we will create a list of colors. Put them in a list, and we'll have just 2 colors, orange and second color gray. After that, we need to add a little bit of logic inside our for loop, and we will select color using this command. Let me first type it in, and then I'll explain you. Color. This is how you select the color. Usually you put the color name there. But now we will select a color from a list of our colors. And the index of this color would be our current item it means remainder of if we divide by 2, as we have only 2 colors. It will go through our for loop and it will pick the current item. Current item could be a number from 0 to 9, because the first iteration it would be 0, then 1, 2, 3, until end of our range. Then it picks the number, and then we divide this number by 2, because we only have 2 colors in the list, and we are looking for remainder. For instance, if it's 2, if the item is 2, 2 divided by 2, remainder 0. It means it will pick the color 0 from a list of the colors, it would be orange. But if remainder is something else, not the 0, it will pick the next, the gray color. Now let me test it out. And we can see it draw with a different color, but I will add begin and end fill. And end fill after we finished drawing our square. Now we can see it start drawing orange, gray, orange, gray, orange, gray. The even and odd items will get a different color. Give you a final example. We will create a square. Inside a square, changing the color and size of a square to keep it in the middle. So for this example, we will change size of a square. We also need to change position of it. I already done some press it up, and I have a draw square function. Now I will create a while loop. I'll create a while loop, but before I create a while loop, I need to give initial size of a square, and initial size will be 150. Now I create a condition saying while size is more or equals to 0, I will draw the square. Draw square, and I'll give a size. Then I mentioned what I want to decrease the size. With every iteration, I want to decrease the size. So now I say size minus equal. I will decrease the size, let's say by 20. 20. Now if I run my code, we can see something like this. That's we already seen. Now I want my square to be positioned in the middle all the time. For this, I need to know x and y coordinate as well. So I'm adding x coordinate, and let's initial x would be 0, and I'm adding y coordinate. Initial y would be 0 as well. Yeah, before I draw a square, I make sure I go to a specific coordinate. Pen up, go to x and y, and then pen down. Let's say I draw my first square. So the next square I want to shift a little bit, so I need to change my x and y coordinate. I will increase my x coordinate because I want to move over here, and I will decrease my y coordinate. So after I draw another iteration, x coordinate will change by 10 plus equals 10, and y coordinate I'll decrease it by 10 minus equals 10. Now we run it, and can you see it will draw square into square, and it will position it in the middle. Now I want to change the color. I want to have, let's say, pink gray, pink gray. I'll create a list of colors. List of colors, same as we done before. Pink and gray. As it is a while loop, we need to introduce the counter to know is it an odd or even iteration. Counter, because if we're using a for loop, it's easier. Now counter, and every time we increase counter here, plus equals 1. And we can pick the color, same way we done for loop. But now we're using counter. So we picking the color from our colors, and the index would be counter, and we're getting remainder counter divided by 2 because we've got two colors. Counter, and we can see it creates a different color every time. Let's add begin and end fill and fill. So this is how you can create a beautiful spiral arts using for loop or while loop, combination of colors and different shapes. You can draw shapes using Python functions or combine multiple shapes. Now is the time for the coding challenge number 5. For this coding challenge, I will use a slightly different point allocation system. It will give you more flexibility and you can complete the parts you can. Your task will be to create a spiral art using Python functions and loops. And here is how we are going to structure it. The task number 1, you do initial setup of your total screen and you start by dividing your canvas into 4 equal parts. Basically, you draw a vertical and horizontal line in the middle of the screen. In the first cell, you will create a stunning spiral art pattern using a square. These squares should be generated by a Python function. And you have to use for or while loop to create a captivating pattern using squares, but you can also add some more elements to your spiral art, a part of the squares. Moving on to the second cell, you will create a unique spiral art of combination of shapes. This time, combine triangle and circle or semicircle. You should use Python function to create a triangle, and feel free to let your creativity shine, but don't forget to use Python function, for loop or while loop to create your design. For the third and the fourth cell, you have to replicate my patterns, the patterns what I'll give you. This is a reverse engineering exercise. Study the image and understand how they were created. And then, using for or while loop, try to replicate my images. And regards to the points, as I mentioned, for this coding challenge, we will have slightly different points. As we have 4 separate spiral arts, I will allocate points for each of your art. 5 points for each of your artwork if you completely followed the instructions and you created your spiral art using Python functions, for loop or while loop. 3 points if it's partially completed, so you completed it but it doesn't exactly meet the requirements, but you still done it. And you can still get 1 point if you attempt to complete it but you haven't used for loops or functions, or you just tried it out. If this coding challenge is too challenging for you, don't worry, you can always start with a part of it. Try your best to create your first 2 spiral arts and give it a try to replicate the spiral arts from my pictures. But the goal is to enjoy the process and learn along your way. Challenge yourself and have fun. I'm waiting for your artwork.